Welcome to Midfield Sportscast and the 33rd episode of the Divided Friendship Podcast. Today it is me, Maddyx, and it is Dawson, and there's no Luke. I was waiting for but I forgot that was Luke's thing. He's not here. He's out sick today. But we are back finally. We missed 2 weeks of college football due to some family stuff and scheduling conflicts. But we are back here and ready for one of the biggest weeks of the college football season. Week 10, we're almost we are in the backstretch of the college football season, past the halfway point, and it is week 10. So today we will talk about week 9's games. We did predict all the games up till like all the weeks we weren't here. We still did predict the games. I'll update you on the scores of the little game we do. We'll talk about last week's games. We'll predict this week's games, and then we'll talk about Ohio State and Michigan, and just our thoughts on them from the past couple of weeks that we have missed, and just last week as well. So I'll send it over to Dawson as he will discuss one of the games he wants to talk about for week number 9 review.
Yep. Exactly. All right. First game I'm going to do. I don't think this was on our top 5 games of the week. It was not. But this ended up being a very good football game, as we had SMU defeat Duke in overtime 28-27. This happened after Duke failed to convert a 2-point conversion for the win, which I like that. Go for the win. Not a bad call, but obviously didn't execute. For SMU, Kevin Jennings, 13 for 24, 258 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Not a good day. Brashard Smith, their leading rusher, had 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. Roderick Daniels had 2 catches for 153 yards in the lone receiving touchdown. Cameron Robinson on the defense had a sack. Brandon Crossley, Cale Sanders Jr. both had half a tackle for loss, and Ahmad Walker had a tackle for loss. Now, for the Blue Devils, offensively, Malik Murphy had a great game. 27 for 48, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Their leading rusher was Star Thomas, 17 for 65 and a touchdown. Eli Pinkhall and Quishon Brown both caught a touchdown pass, as well as Jordan Moore. Defensively, no sacks for... Oh, goodness. No sacks for the Blue Devils, but Vincent Anthony, Ozzie Nicholas both had half a tackle for loss. Trey Freeman, Chandler Rivers, and Cameron Bergeron all got the interceptions for Duke. But overall, just a great conference game between kind of sleeper teams in the ACC. No one thought Duke was going to be this good. And obviously, no one thought SMU would be sitting at the top of the ACC. That's all I got for this one.
All right, so I'll talk about 2 games here. I'm just going to quickly go through one because it wasn't much of a game. I'll go with Alabama and Missouri, a game that was supposed to be, some people thought it was going to be a good game, but Alabama came in. They played their best game of the season besides the Georgia game. They won 34-0. A really complete game all around. Just really stopped Missouri's offense with just forcing Pine to throw 3 interceptions. Brady Cook he went 7 for 12 for 30 yards, and then Pine went 6 for 12 with 3 interceptions, 12.9 QBR, and then an 11.4 QBR. So not a great day quarterback-wise for Missouri. For Alabama, Milroe went 16 for 26 for 215, no touchdowns, no picks. He rushed for 50 yards and had a touchdown. their defense put them in position to not have to do a lot on offense, but they still won 34-0. So now we'll go on to another game. I'll talk about. Let's go with. Talk about Texas and Vanderbilt here. What'd you talk about first?
Southern Methodist.
Yeah. All right, so 27-24 was the score. Texas ended up beating Vanderbilt, moving to 7-1 on the season. A game that was really not that close, but then Vandy stormed back. They were down 24-10. They were also down 21-7, and then they came back and made it 27-17, and then a touchdown made it 27-24, but they could not get the onside kick. Ewers went for 288, 3 touchdowns, threw 2 interceptions. Not a great day for him. He hasn't really had the season that people were wanting him to have. He was in the Heisman conversation before the year started. Pavia went 16 for 26 for 143, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not a great day for him either. He rushed for 67 yards and a touchdown. Just a really bad game for both offenses, but they still ended up putting up 27-24. So you can take over the next game.
All right. Okay, the next game I will be doing also was not on our top 5 games, but ended up being a really good game. And it was the battle between Kansas State and Kansas, where the Jayhawks fell to 2-6 on the year in a 27-29 defeat to the Wildcats. This came after Chris Tennant hit a 51-yard field goal with just under 2 minutes to play to take the lead. This game was a lot better than I anticipated it to be. Obviously, a rivalry game between two talented rosters. I know Kansas hasn't showed it as much, but still a pretty decent roster. Jalen Daniels, 18 for 31, 209 yards, a touchdown and an interception, and also added 66 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Devin Neal, 13 carries, 66 yards and a touchdown. Trevor Wilson, 4 catches, 69 yards. Luke Grimm, 4 for 66 and a touchdown. For the Wildcats, Avery Johnson, 19 for 34, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and also added 67 yards and a touchdown on the ground. DJ Giddens, 18 carries, 102 yards for him on the day. Jace Brown was their leading receiver for 98 yards on 5 catches, and Will Antial had a touchdown reception, as well as Garrett Oakley on the day. Marquise Siegel had the lone interception for the Wildcats, and that may have been a key factor in the Jayhawks losing the game, as that possession, they could have just put a field goal on the board and be a whole different ball game.
Yep. All right. So I'll go down to. I want to talk about one thing first. Let's talk about Pitt Syracuse. 5 interceptions thrown by Kyle McCord. I mean, he's had a really good year for weeks. I mean, after like week 4, he was getting a little bit of talk to be a Heisman sleeper, but now he's threw 5 interceptions with 3 pick sixes, and they lost to Pitt 41-13, with Pitt's quarterback only throwing 15 passes. That's crazy, and their leading rusher having 47 yards and no touchdowns. That just shows you how many interceptions and pick sixes there was. I want to talk about a game that is really important for next week. Let's talk about Penn State and Wisconsin, a game in the Big Ten that was right before the Ohio State game for Penn State. A little bit of a trap game here, and Penn State wins 28-13 over a Wisconsin team that has been doing pretty well lately. So the game was close the entire time until the fourth quarter, where Penn State scored 2 late touchdowns, led by Bo Prabula. In the end, Drew Allar got banged up, and Prbula stepped in and played very well. Alar went 14 for 18 for 148 yards and a touchdown. Allen did his thing, had 11 carries, 86 yards, touchdown. Locke on Wisconsin had a very costly interception that was returned for a touchdown that pretty much took them out of this game. He went 22 for 42 for 217 yards. Throwing it 42 times in a game, you really should have more than 217 yards. Just not a bunch of offense from Wisconsin, but their defense kept them in this game. And then also just Penn State's offense not scoring. But Beulah went 11 for 13 for 98 yards and a touchdown. A really nice game for him as a backup. And he also ran the ball for six carries for 28 yards. Just a little trap game for Penn State, but they came out of it with a W. And then I'll quickly go over A&M and LSU. Or do you want to do that? Does it matter? Okay, so this game, let's see. Let me get the predictions out here. Two of us predicted. Dawson picked A&M, and me and Luke both picked LSU. I've been pretty high on LSU lately, but I knew that Garrett Nussmeier has a little bit of a tendency to throw the ball into dangerous situations. He threw 3 interceptions in this game. Threw it 50 times. You do not want that to happen. And then the LSU's leading rusher with 23 yards. Just they aired it out the entire game. By the way, they lost 23-38. Forgot to say that part. Nussmeier 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. But A&M, they got a duo of quarterbacks. Yeah. They have Marcel Reed, who stepped in and went 2 for 2 for 70 yards, and then Wegman, who went 6 for 18 for 64 yards. So they didn't really need their passing game when the rushing attack went for 242 total yards and 5 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns by Marcel Reed and 2 by Le'Veon Moss. Just a great game by A&M, and they come out with the number 1 spot in the SEC and in the driver's seat to go to the SEC championship game. All right, next game.
Well, I also think that maybe A&M should just roll with Marcel Reed. I don't think they
He's
should
got a hot hand.
go with Connor Weigman anymore. I think they should take their loss and move on to what maybe is their quarterback of the next couple of seasons.
Take their loss. They won.
Take their loss on the 5-star quarterback.
Oh, my bad. That's on me.
Cut their losses.
Yeah, I get it.
Because, I mean, I said it earlier in the year whenever he was playing for A&M in place of an injured Connor Weigman. I said that I think he should take control of that team and be their starting quarterback. And I think more people may be able to see that now that they've had that little comparison in the same game between the two quarterbacks. And obviously, Marcel Reed is a much different quarterback than Connor Weigman,
Yes.
which might be just why he plays better.
Ain't gonna lie. I mean, that's a high comparison, but he's a running quarterback that can throw the ball pretty good. That's just a recent one I can think of. I'm not gonna compare it to Lamar.
Let's see what else we can go over.
Another notable game that was on the top 5 games of the week that I'm not really going to go into stats because Notre Dame beat Navy 51-14. Navy ends their undefeated season, but Army continues it. But we all picked Luke picked Navy, and then me and Philly picked Notre Dame. So then Illinois, Oregon was on there. I don't know if you want to go over that.
Also, it was not a close game either.
Nah, so we all 3 picked Oregon there. Luke had them in triple overtime, winning 42-40. But I mean, you got to take your shots. We went over Bama, Missouri. We went over Texas Vanderbilt, and we went over LSU A&M.
That's all we got for this week then.
All right, on to the update on the scores. So this week, Dawson, last week, he went 0 for 5. This week, he bounces back and goes 5 for 5 with a +8 on the week. I went 4 for 5 +4 on the week. Luke went 3 for 5 +3 on the week. Dawson got a +3 for picking A&M, who was lower ranked, beating LSU. That was A&M ranked 14, LSU ranked 8. So that puts us to the top 3. First would be me, Maddyx with 53, and then Dawson and Luke tied in second with 50. So
solid, right back
pretty
in
good.
it.
Dawson climbs his way back into the contention for the number 1 spot with a very, very the best week we've probably ever had. 5 for 5 hasn't happened all year. So now we go on to predicting this week's college football top 5 games of the week. We'll save the best for last. Do you want to pull up Luke's games, or do you want me to?
You.
Okay. You tell me the ranking and then like the home and away like usually.
I got you. All right. First game we can go over is Big Ten matchup. Noon kickoff on Fox Sports. It'll be 5-3 Minnesota headed to Champaign, Illinois to take on the number 24 ranked Fighting Illini, who are 6-2 on the season.
Shoot, I just zoned out. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Minnesota.
All right. So we got
Gophers, Illini.
Why's this thing buzzing? It doesn't sound good at all.
I don't know.
Okay. I guess you can just do Luke's pick for. Wow, that was bad. You can do Luke's pick first. I'll cut this out because I have to find damage. Tell me what time that is. We're at 16:20. 16:30. Okay. I can't spell Minnesota. The freak you think I am?
Minnesota.
Illinois, who's ranked 1? Philly. Week 10. All right, we're ready. Week 10. All right, let's start with Luke here. Oh, shoot, that's me. All right, so for this game, Luke is picking Illinois to win this one 28-7. So he goes with orange. I guess I'll go next. I'm going to go with Illinois to win this one as well at home. I mean, I think they just have a more complete team. And I'm going to go with them winning an old-fashioned Big Ten defensive battle. I'll go 17-15.
All right. I'm going to take a technical upset, but also a non-technical upset. Minnesota is favored in this game by 3. But I'm going to pick the Golden Gophers to knock off Illinois. I'm going to pick Minnesota 14, Illinois 13.
All right.
Next game we have will be 5-3 Louisville going to Death Valley to take on the number 11 ranked Clemson Tigers. This one is a 7:30 kickoff on ESPN.
Okay, so I think, to be honest with you, I think Clemson is underrated. I don't think they've played much of a schedule, but I think they should be in the top 10 in my opinion. But let's see what Luke has here. Luke has Clemson winning this one and a close one, 41-38. So he has the Tigers winning. And I would say they'd storm the field, but they do that every week. They literally storm the field every single game.
That's all right.
They beat Furman and they stormed the field. I'm gonna go with Clemson as well. I think Clemson has the best shot to win the ACC. I think they can beat Miami. To be honest with you, I mean, Cade Klubnik is playing very well, and I'm gonna say Clemson wins it. I'll go 42-24. All right, Philly.
Yeah, ever since that loss in the first week of the season to Georgia, Clemson has looked very good, like an elite level football team. That being said, I'm going to also take Clemson by a score of 38-24. to 16.
All right, all three riding with Clemson. Now we go on to game 3.
Next game is an SEC matchup that is 7:30 kickoff on ABC and ESPN Plus. We have the number 10 ranked Texas A&M Aggies headed to South Carolina, who is 4-3 on the year. Sneaky good team though. They have some good losses, some close losses. I think they're a lot better than their record shows, and that's why A&M is only favored by 3 in this matchup.
Oh my goodness. All right. So Luke has Texas A&M winning this one 38-9. Honestly, think he just looked at the rankings and picked them to win. He has A&M blowing them out, but I mean he had 3 blowouts a couple weeks ago, and I mean it kind of worked out like that. I'm gonna go with A&M also with the win, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be closer. I'm gonna say A&M wins it 31-27. Really?
I'm also going to pick A&M to win this one, but like Maddyx said, I do think this will be a good game, as I think South Carolina is a pretty good football team. I'm going to take Texas A&M to win this one by a score of 26-19.
All right, on to game 4. We all have picked every game except for the first one. Only one pick that was different.
All right, I think this one could mix up a little bit of that. We will have a battle of 2 undefeateds in the ACC. Pitt undefeated overall, SMU 1 loss to BYU, which that loss is looking a whole lot better as the season progresses. Number 18 Pitt headed on the road to face the number 20 Mustangs. This one is an 8 p.m. kickoff on ACC Network.
Weird that they put that on ACC Network. Let's see what Luke has. Luke has SMU in a blowout, 45-27. Interesting. I mean, last week, to be honest with you, if Kyle McCord didn't play like that, what would that score have looked like? Obviously, their defense got the interception. So is their defense really that good, or is Kyle McCord really that bad? That's what you have. That's what I'm thinking about here. I'm gonna go with SMU. I think SMU can pull this one off. Their only loss, a pretty good loss. But I think they get the another favored. Never mind. I think they get the win here. I'm gonna go SMU by a score of. I'll go 28-27. 1 point game.
Second straight game for SMU winning 28-27.
What? Oh, that's weird. 28-26. I can't do that. 28-26.
All right. My pick, I am going to be switching it up again. I'm going to take the Pitt Panthers to knock off the Mustangs on the road and remain undefeated on the season. I'm going to take Pitt to win this one by a score of 32-25.
All right, and now to the game of the week. We will have a
Kentucky taking on.
yikes.
No, oh,
You got it.
my fault.
Hype this thing up.
All right. Yes, game day will be there. Yes, big noon kickoff will be there. Dang shame this game's at noon, but it is. Welcome to the Big Ten. We've got the number 4 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, lone loss to the number 1 ranked team in the country. They are headed to Happy Valley to take on the number 3 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions, which it is very weird seeing Penn State ranked higher than the Buckeyes, but one's undefeated, one's not. And like I said earlier, 12 p.m. kickoff on Fox.
All right. Luke is heading, or is, what am I trying to say? Luke is hanging with the Nittany Lions. He is saying Penn State wins this one 35-34. A 1-point loss again for Ohio State. Honestly, if that happened, I'd probably be crying. But now I will take my pick on my favorite team's game. I guess I'll just go fully into it now. Is that fine?
That's fine.
So I don't talk about it later. So the problem with Ohio State right now, Josh Simmons, starting left tackle, out rest of the year. Backup left tackle in. He was also going to be out for this game, most likely. So our left guard, Donovan Jackson, will probably move out to left tackle, and then a guard will move in there. A backup guard will move in there at guard. I think it might be Hinsman. I'm not sure. No, he plays tackle. I don't know. We'll find out on Saturday. That is a problem. It was a problem against Nebraska. We'll get into that Nebraska game later. But quarterback-wise, I think Drew Lar is playing in this game. He had a little injury against Wisconsin, but he will be playing. So I'm sure Ohio State was prepared for that, prepared for both quarterbacks because they have to because they both play. Defensively, I think our defense can hang with Penn State, but we're going to run a lot of man coverage, and that will help Drew Lar and Prabula get a little bit of running room, and I think they'll be able to get lanes and run on Ohio State, which is not a great thing, but it's always happened against Penn State. Just remember back to when they had Sean Clifford and Trace McSorley. So my score here, I'm gonna go Ohio State 31-20. I think in the fourth quarter, Ohio State is going to win the game and the stars will shine. I think you have to go to your best players in this game. Another problem. Last week, Jeremiah Smith, 4 targets. The thing that was working the entire game, we threw a 60-yard bomb to Carnell Tate, 40-yard bomb to Carnell Tate, 60-yard bomb to Jeremiah Smith. Then we tried to keep getting that running game working with the backups in on the line. It was not working, and they kept trying to force it, and it was a terrible decision because then we almost lost to Nebraska. If something's working, stick with it and keep using it. If the deep ball's working, use the deep ball. If the run game's somehow working, use that and throw off play action or whatever. So 31-20, I think they used the deep ball. I think Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka need both more than 4 targets because that's what they had last week. After the first drive in the second half last week, Jeremiah Smith had, guess what, Philly? 0 targets. Insane. That cannot happen. They both combined need at least 18 targets in this game. So I'm going to go Ohio State 31-20. Philly, what do you got?
All right. Well, after watching the Nebraska game last week, very scared to pick Ohio State here because, I mean, we all know that Penn State's got a very good defensive front and a very good defense just overall. And for a unit that gave up 256 rushing yards to Indiana just 1 week before that matchup with Ohio State, and then give up only 60 on, like, I think it was 20-something carries, 62 on 20-something carries for, 2 yards a carry, you just can't have that, especially not whenever you're playing a top 3 team, and definitely not whenever you're playing on the road. You got to have all aspects firing perfectly on each side of the ball, offense, defense, passing, rushing, all of that. And if you just are one-dimensional, it's really easy to stop compared to being able to run efficiently as well as pass efficiently. But I think that Ohio State now has had a week to prepare, and that is a week longer for the offensive line unit to kind of gel together and maybe improve off of their mistakes from last week's game against Nebraska. So I am going to be picking the Buckeyes to win this one by a score of 22-16.
This is one of those games where it is very close, but this could determine our little point system at the end of the year. A number 4 and a number 3 team. If me and Dawson get that right, we get +3 and a +1, which will really help us. And Luke would get obviously 0 unless he gets points. So we all three have pretty close games. 31-20 for me, 35-34 for Luke with Penn State, and then Philly with 22-16 Ohio State. That's the top 5 games of the week. predicted by us. Now I'll hand the floor to Philly to talk about what has gone on at Michigan over the past 3 weeks or 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You can talk about whatever you want. You don't really have to go game by game. Just talk about whatever's going on there and this week's game.
All right. Well, past 2 weeks, were we on here for after the Washington game?
When was that?
I don't know if we were, because I don't feel like I remember talking about the Washington game.
You did one by just you and Luke, and then we did one, me and you.
Anyways,
Yeah, you
Washington.
Did, you lost. We filmed that in there, I think.
I don't remember.
I don't know. Just talk about it.
Washington beat Michigan a couple weeks back, 27-17. Very disappointing game for the Wolverines, but Jack Tuttle came in, and he was passing a little bit better than any of our other quarterbacks were. Got our hopes up. He became our starter for the Illinois game, and he played terrible. Lost that one 21-7 against Illinois on the road, a game that if you looked at before the season, you just thought it was a gimme basically for the Wolverines, but clearly not. Couldn't be far from the truth. Jack Tuttle, 20 for 32, 208 yards and an interception in that game. According to the numbers, he threw the ball a lot better and a lot more than any of our other quarterbacks, but fumbles, turnovers, interceptions, just all that didn't go well. And then Michigan State game, we won that one 24-17. Davis Warren was our starting quarterback for this week, and I think he looks to be going forward. He went 13 for 19, 123 yards and a touchdown, in which is what I think was probably his best game of the season for us in his fourth start, I believe it was. So that's obviously a good sign for Michigan and the Michigan fans, but 13 for 19 and 123 yards. That obviously shows you that passing game is not very good. Colston Loveland, 6 catches, 67 yards, and 2 touchdowns in this game. Donovan Edwards, 1 for 123 yards and a touchdown. He's 4 for 4 in his career in passing attempts, which I find pretty funny. Also, right after this game, I believe it was, shortly after, Jack Tuttle announced his retirement. So he went from starting a week before to retiring 2 weeks later. I mean, he said that he got another concussion and he was protecting his health and whatnot. Wish the best of luck to him in life. And there's that for the recaps of the past couple weeks. Now, obviously, we go on to a much tougher challenge, definitely our hardest challenge of the season, where we will be hosting the number 1 ranked team in the country in the Oregon Ducks. Tall task. Oh, freak. You knocked me off my train of thought.
You're talking about Oregon and that big test.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, Oregon, obviously, our biggest challenge of the season. Best offense we've played all year. And probably the best defense we've played all season as well. We have a 22% chance to win this game. So there's that. I'm really concerned for this game because played Texas earlier this year, and everybody saw how that went on in front of millions on TV. This game is on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Interesting.
Very weird.
Paramount Plus, what the heck?
Paramount Plus. Oregon is wearing all whites with, I believe it's gray helmets. And Michigan's just wearing their classic blue jerseys, mace pants. I'm not really sure what Michigan needs to do to win this game. They're going to have to be perfect pretty much.
I mean, got the crowd.
I guess, but that didn't matter against Texas.
Sure didn't.
So, and after watching what we've done this season, I'm not really sure what we need to do to win the game.
Feed the white boy, Colston Loveland. If you pass it, you got to pass it to him.
We're going to have to pass it. So,
and then the Don needs to figure out how to run the football and not throw the football. He needs to
I
run
don't really
it good.
know what we need to do. We just need to play a heck of a lot better than we have in basically all of our games this year.
Well,
we're going to have a Davis Warren performance of a lifetime.
With that being said, Luke did pick his upset of the week being Michigan.
We did not do upset of the week.
I know. That was your reminder.
I'm just going to finish talking about this.
No, you can go for that. But I was just saying, Luke's
I don't
upset.
really know what else to talk
Luke
about.
is not here to talk about the game, but he did say his upset pick of the week is Michigan, and he said very biased.
Very, very biased. Well, let me go ahead and get my upset pick of the week then. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Great heavens.
Krabby Patty.
All right, I do believe I've got my upset pick of the week.
I've got mine.
Mine is going to be Florida State over North Carolina.
Give me Arkansas over Ole Miss. Arkansas is the underdog by 7.5. Another one that you might want to keep your eye on, Indiana on the road at Michigan State. They are only 8-point favorites in this one. Michigan State.
I'm pretty sure they'll be without Curtis Rourke again, and they will have Taven Jackson.
Aiden Childs has 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Davis Warren has 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Yikes. What football played by the Wolverines? But they did win the rivalry against Michigan State. So
they did.
Kept Little Bro. Little Bro State doing little bro things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Nebraska, I guess I can touch on that. I already talked about it. I mean, offensive line struggled. Defense came up clutch in the end. Need to play better. It was really surprising. Oregon, we were getting cooked on the secondary. Obviously, if you watch that game, you know Denzel Burke got fried. But, I mean, the defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, play calling wasn't great in that game either. Dropping all D linemen, rushing 2 backers, and keeping the secondary in man was not a great defensive call, in my opinion. But you get cooked on defense, and then you come out and you run man coverage and blitz against Nebraska. I mean, he kind of changed the scheme all up right there, but I mean, they didn't play terribly. Came up clutch in the end. Hancock got the interception, and Ohio State won the game. Close one. Shouldn't have been close, but I mean, the offensive struggles led to a close game. That's both of those.